Well, welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast, everyone. We're talking today about building value and commanding a high fee in the speaking business. Yes, even during COVID. Our special guest today is Waldo Waldman. Welcome, Waldo.
Great to be here, Jane.
I'm so happy to have you on the show. You have a background as a fighter pilot. Tell everybody about your life before speaking.
So, when it comes to providing value, you can't be what I like to refer as all thrust and no vector. High energy, perhaps some great content, but today more than ever, clients need credibility. They need to see what I call the scars of your character, your background, the difficulties, challenges, wins, and losses. So what I do as a speaker is I base my background, like you said, on being a fighter pilot. I was a decorated combat fighter pilot, not just flying jets in combat, but being shot at, overcoming fears, claustrophobia, some other challenges that we could possibly share, but it's part of my story. And then when I left the military, I stayed in the reserve. I went to business school, got my MBA because I knew I wanted to eventually get into the business world, not necessarily the speaking world.
Mhm.
I was in technology sales for a while, a company called Simigan, an Israeli defense contractor, learned a ton about B2B sales, then went into mergers and acquisitions, M&A, commission only, scrapping, getting on the phone, winning and losing, making zero to $50,000 a month. And then I weaned my way into the speaking business and applied not just my fighter pilot background, but my business background, which I'm able to align and make, uh, you know, connected to the issues of my current business clients, which are mostly my clients. I do a little B2C, a little non-business related, but my primary is business. So I combine both. So one thing that you mentioned is about my background as a fighter pilot, but I don't like to pigeonhole myself, and I wouldn't recommend any of you to pigeonhole yourself into just your background, what you did, but more so, more the experiences, the depth and knowledge that you gained beyond just the position that you held as a fighter pilot, as an insurance salesman, as a tax consultant, or whatever the heck it is.
Gotcha, gotcha. But wouldn't you say that that has been a good differentiator for you in the speaking business when you have a sea of faces out there? A lot of people talking about maybe some of the same things that you've been talking about it. The way that you deliver it and bringing people kind of right into the cockpit with you
Right.
leaves them with having felt like they've really experiencing something unique.
Yes, 100%. You want to create that experience, the
Mhm.
experience, the emotional texture, I like to call it, the up and down, the heart, the head, the fear, the excitement, the joy, the sadness, all those things when you put them into your story, be it an emotional story, human to human, or put them into the cockpit with you, so to speak, or like I also do, show video, which is a definite benefit of having my background as a fighter pilot. I could use video in a lot different way than perhaps somebody who was an insurance salesperson or an emergency room doc, whatever it is, using video and making that deliverable, that experience as experiential as possible.
Right, right.
So, but it definitely helps me and I use it to the max of my ability, but I'll share a little bit more about that later because I think it is so much more than that.
Okay. So, your business model today includes, let's talk through all of the levels of kind of products and services that you have to offer. Start at the top and work your way down to the little teeny tiny books and things. Not
So
that,
when I started in around 2003 or so, I made a commitment that I wanted to be the absolute best keynote speaker possible. That is my focus. That's what I call my diamond of conduct. That is the main revenue generator. I was always extremely myopic about being the best keynote speaker, opening, closing, after lunch, after dinner, whatever that 40 to 60 or 75-minute slot is, boom. That's where I make 90% of my revenue currently. And if I had to fall back on anything, it would be that. I would suggest you, as an experienced speaker, double down on what you're very, very good at and just become maniacal about refining that diamond and shining it up.
Hmm.
And I'm always getting coaching, getting better. You're one of the best coaches out there, Jane, and I learned even from your newsletters as well. So I'm always extracting more information because you never know what type of wingtip or philosophy or business idea you can get, even from new speakers who have great ideas on
Hmm.
storytelling, technology, et cetera. So, so, uh,
So
so
90% keynotes.
yeah, 90% keynote. Thank you for getting me on track, just like
Okay.
a good interviewer, right? And then I also have executive coaching, which I've been doing more and more of lately. I'm working with a $50 million home services company with 100 employees, teaching them about business leadership, collaboration, applying some of the principles of a fighter squadron, of a high performing team that I was part of in business, and then coaching individuals on breaking their barriers, right?
Hmm.
Some of the leaders don't necessarily have business issues, they have home issues with their marriage or their health and fitness. So that's other stuff that I do. And then the last portion is and I bundle that, by the way, with a follow-on video training system called the ACE Academy. Stands
Okay.
for accountability, commitment, and execution. You'll find a lot of my stuff is branded. I'm maniacal about branding and making your content
And
and
I
brand
love
memorable,
I
right?
love that you have great names, like
Mhm.
juicy names for all of your products. I think that that's really smart.
It does. It helps, and some people have that, and it's hard to brainstorm. A lot of the names, by the way, I've gotten by brainstorming with other amazing business people and speakers. You can learn so much from each other. So the executive coaching and the follow-on video academy, something I'm doing a lot more, especially in this virtual world that we're in. They need
Hmm.
more deliverables through this amazing thing called a computer screen.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is my products. I've got a New York Times bestseller, Never Fly Solo. Um, I sell challenge coins and all this stuff. This is like my Never Fly Solo challenge coin. You can't really see it too well here. And I customize them. This was with Southwire. This is with the
Cool.
National Restaurant Association. So I have a lot of little follow-on products that are used to create that red thread of content and
Yeah.
sustainability that goes beyond the keynote. And
Like
that's how you
you're
can,
locking in the learning. You're giving them something that they can keep in their pocket and pull out and remind themselves of what you taught them. That's cool.
yes, yes. And so all those little small yet significant brandable, sticky content aggregators are what
Mhm.
you want to think about expanding on as you go beyond just the 60-minute keynoter to a content aggregator, thought leader that can last a month or maybe even a year or more if you really expand it through your consulting and coaching.
I love that. Okay, so it's a pretty simple model. Keynotes, executive coaching. I really think that your combination of the services work that you did in the air, was it the Air Force?
Yeah,
Got that
Air
right?
Force. Yeah.
In the Air Force, combined with an MBA, combined with your business experience as a speaker, I mean, somebody who's going to get you as a coach is going to get somebody who really comes to the table with a unique set of skills. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
So,
and one small little thing too, because you bring up such a great point, Jane, is that there are other military speakers. There's other great fighter pilot speakers. There's Navy
mhm,
SEALs. There's all these others, right? And that's why I don't like pigeonholing myself. However, that's how the market looks at me.
mhm,
But what you want to do is make sure that you differentiate yourself because there's Navy SEALs, Marcus Luttrell, all these other great folks and other fighter
mhm.
pilots who don't have the real world business experience, cold calling, giving presentations, winning and losing, writing expense reports, dealing with objections. So I share that in my speeches. And most importantly, when it comes to value proposition, commanding higher fees, which is this is all about, it will differentiate me from somebody else. Because if I'm
Mhm.
talking to a sales client, I want to say, I've got real world experience. I'm going to share ideas and stories that I learned not just as a speaker, but in the real world sales. And I'll use the fighter pilot analogy to make it sticky, sexy, memorable, repeatable. So apply that and use whatever you can to differentiate, and it'll help you command, not demand higher fees.
I was thinking about how long I've probably known you for. and I've been in the business for over 30 years. I'm never going to say 40, so I'm just going to have it
Yeah,
30
yeah,
and
yeah.
pause
40
because
is scary. I get it. I
you
get
know,
it.
feel old. But we've probably known each other, let's say somewhere between 20 and 30 years. And I feel like we've all kind of grown up in the industry
Sure.
together. Like and you guys were all youngsters. I remember, you and your compadres, and we have a lot of friends in common. And I just think it's really neat that it's not an industry of necessarily competitors. And I know some people will hear you say what you just said and think, "Oh no, I better go get my MBA." No, 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 no. That's not the point. Figure out what it is that you uniquely bring to the table, and make sure that you are pulling all of your best self forward when you are showing people how you're going to be unique for them.
So true. And it comes from wisdom. You're exactly right. We're not where we're different people
Mhm.
than where we were 10, 20, 30 years ago. And also, I think the world is different now. You're listening to it now when, we're on the second year of the pandemic. Maybe if you're
Mhm.
listening to this 5 years from now, something else will be going on, or there'll be some other
Yeah.
economic difference, or you may have been single at the time you heard this and now you're married with two kids, or God
Mhm.
forbid you went through a divorce or survived COVID. You have to bring your whole self, an authentic self to the table. Jane, this is exactly what I was going to say about the story or the video and or the background, the texture and the emotional context that you bring with your humanity, with
Mm.
your experiences. Most of the stories that I share are my mess ups, not my fighter pilot victories. It's the
Yeah.
things that I screwed up on and I learned, and my struggles that helped make me not just a better leader, better speaker, but a better human being.
Mm.
And this type of conversation and texture and emotional context that I bring may or may not relate to some prospects.
Audiences,
And
yeah.
you have to just be so maniacal about that and deliver to them. That's why this vehicle called the camera and the audio, and I'll share a little bit more about how important that is later. It just brings your whole self, because if my ability to connect with you and that humanity that you brought to the table, Jane, how we're different, people relate to that more than ever because of the struggles. And you got to marinate the steak of the relationship, make it more uh, palatable and authentic and real to that prospect who you're potentially selling to, and ultimately who you're sharing with on a virtual screen or actually on a live stage. Be relevant, be human, share what's relevant today, not just what you did 20 years ago as a fighter pilot, however you define that.
When you were first starting out in the industry, did you have the same level of humility that you have today? Or do you think that maybe as a young guy who needed to prove himself, you were maybe in a little bit different space? I'm asking the question. I'm not
I
making any
think, when I started out, I was in my late 30s. I'm 52 now, maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
mid 30s or so.
Yeah.
I've grown up in this industry. I think in me in general, you can hear my accent, my intensity, my mannerisms. I think when people get to know me, they realize that I'm not very cocky. I'm just pretty confident. I know what works for me, and I'm maybe not the best, or back then maybe the best communicator, right? And so I've learned in life with my peers, with my association members, with my friends who've corrected me, enlightened me, inspired me, how to be a better communicator, how to perhaps be less cocky. And I think like anyone in the world, when you get kicked down and when you become more successful, you have two choices: to either let it keep you down and develop a sense of fear or apprehension or uncertainty, or you leverage it to build that confidence and courage that will allow you to continuously give and develop more. What I'm saying is, I have no problem with asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
When I became, inducted in the Hall of Fame, Speaker Hall of Fame, around 7 or 8 years ago, Tim Gard always jokes around, a fellow peer, a friend of mine, that I said, "Oh, Tim, I just found out I made CPE. I got to get more coaching. I got to get better." It's because I know that the standards are higher now. just
Mm.
because I made seven
To live
figures.
into it. Yeah.
What's that?
You have to live into it.
Live into it. It's a great expression. And so I have wonderful people who've humbled me, who's connected with me, and I have no problem with asking for help. And people who also know me that I give my wings away and I help out a lot as well. So short answer or the longer answer is I probably was more cocky back then just because
I'm
I
just
was so
guessing.
fired up,
Yeah, I'm just guessing. Okay, so we're
Yeah.
talking about building value and commanding a high fee, which you have done now for over a decade. I'm thinking you've always been a little bit, not a little bit higher, but at, raising it and raising it and raising it. Um, what is the secret to building and maintaining high fees?
So
And
I
we'll
shared a
talk
few.
COVID separately, okay?
Right, right, right. And so I shared a little bit about this before. It's credibility, it's authenticity, it's relevance, and ultimately, really good salesmanship. Your ability as a man or woman to sell, to provide value, to ask the questions, to build rapport, to to demonstrate and exhibit influence and connection. So many variables. But like I mentioned before, you can't be all thrust and no vector. You can have all this experience, but if you don't have a great storytelling ability, if your platform isn't good, if your platform and value proposition is great, and you have crummy marketing or your video doesn't emulate high value, if you're not showing social proof on your website or your testimonials, if you don't have credibility and relevance in social media. If you haven't delivered your value as a thought leader, meaning not just from your vernacular, your verbiage, your video, but also through your articles, your podcasts, your books that you've written,
Hmm.
your connections. So I threw a lot at you there, and you may want to rewind this and write down. Rewind this, right? Isn't that a 70s term? Go back on this and listen to a couple of different those things, i.e.,
Yeah.
you must be multi-dimensional. This is why, if you look at this F-16, I always use this as a prop, which is cool on thing. It's always about retooling and refueling your business.
Hmm.
Many speakers now have been flying 30,000 feet in beautiful daytime conditions over flat terrain in Iraq. But now, COVID, economic uncertainty, you have the same jet and the same pilot, but now you need different weapon systems. You're flying 500 feet, 550 knots at night over mountainous terrain in Afghanistan. You've got to leverage your tools and technologies. You have to change things around and take this weapon system off and put on a new one. You've got to leverage your connections, your tactics, your deliverables. Selling virtually is different. Uh, Using the channel, speakers bureaus, agents, hiring people. It's a constant evolution, not just in the speaking industry, but as a business person, as an entrepreneur who's evolving and changing and learning the keys to value beyond the vehicle called speaking, but in the business world, because we're selling to businessmen and women,
Hmm.
not just meeting planners, not just executives, businessmen and women who really need to understand the value through your questions, through your props, through your videos. So there's so many things that command a fee as opposed to demand a fee. And people will click, learn, ask, research, and seek relevance because the playing field has just too many top guns out there to compete with. You need everything in your arsenal to deliver that value.
One of the things that we talk about over here is that whole be good marketing idea. Going out and delivering a really epic presentation is the best way to reach and then continue to command high fees.
Yes.
Now, can you do that with crappy marketing? Probably not. And so we need to have both things kind of leveling off. Some people will get ahead of themselves in their marketing and look really, really great on paper and then not be able to follow it up with that epic presentation. And I think that that's an issue as well.
Yes,
So being a
100%.
thought leader, we've talked about, I just wrote this down I don't know what I was listening to this week, but somebody was talking about the best way, probably something on Clubhouse, the best way to, command higher fees is to continually put out great value into the world. And so I did this big flip chart paper of all the value that we put out from our end of the world. We have a blog, we have a podcast, we do social media, we deliver great content on Clubhouse every week on Thursdays. All the work we do inside our masterminds and our private coaching in our school, and we have books. And you've done the same thing. You've just been for 20 plus years just delivering solid content. Decision makers look back at your social media footprint and they tend to see all of the things that you've done over the course of the year, and that's what brings them to a decision of yes, right?
Yeah, they're smarter than ever. They're doing their due diligence. They will research you, Google you, look at you on Facebook, Twitter, and this is where ideally, in this day and age of call it cancel culture or politics, whatever, you've got to be very careful what you put out there because it stays with you and it can win and lose business. Some of it can win you business. Sometimes if you plant the flag and state an opinion that may tick off some folks, it may align others to you, but you have to understand the consequences of that in this digital marketplace where our footprint spans beyond just our website.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this goes back to a statement that I started years ago. It says you have to be a mint chocolate chip speaker in a vanilla chocolate world. There are amazing vanilla chocolate speakers. They're non-GMO. They're out there, phenomenal. We can name a bunch, but they're legacy speakers. Uh, we know who they are, right? Call it Anthony Robbins, very unique and different, but he basically invented vanilla. There's a Jim Cathcart, there's Naomi Rhodes, there's these old classic speakers and maybe some new ones who have quote unquote a safe, value driven legacy brand. They are the vanilla bean of the ice cream world, and you can't compete against them. However, today, with diversity, with the variables in the marketplace, with the changing socioeconomic environment that we're in, you have to risk being mint chocolate chip. I love mint chocolate chip. It's my favorite ice cream. I own mint chocolate chip. Don't steal it from me. I'm being facetious, but some people love mint chocolate chip. And guess what, Jane? Some people can't stand it.
Mm-hmm.
Some
It won't
people that are
be for
listening to this
everybody, and that's
podcast, right?
okay.
What's
It,
that?
it won't be for everybody, and that's okay.
And exactly. So you have to be a little risky
Mm-hmm.
with your brand. You have to be willing to potentially alienate a certain demographic, certain segment of the business world that you're selling to in order to attract more of your tribe, more of your wingmen, your trusted partners, the people that say not maybe yes, maybe no. You want them when they go to your website, watch your videos and listen to your content, they say absolutely yes or absolutely no, would never hire him or her, just not for us. And once again, that's okay. And so be that type of brand, be risky enough in your small segment, because if you go to Publix or Target or Kroger, you're going to see all these different ice creams, and there's a reason why. There's a flavor for everyone, and vanilla and chocolate just aren't going to cut it in the world today. I think you need to be different, and that is also a brand builder, a value builder, a fee builder, as long as you can back it up with great content, credibility, and as you inferred before so graciously, nothing is better than the content that you deliver on the platform, either through a virtual screen or on that stage, because no matter how great your marketing materials are, if you're not able to deliver a compelling, value-driven message with the hour that they're paying for, you will not make it in this industry, period, dot. And that's a fact that we need to realize more than ever every single day.
So let's talk about, being kind of someone who talks about retooling and refueling. Talk about when COVID hit a year ago. What were some of the things that you did well in the beginning, and what were some of the things that you didn't do well in the beginning?
So just like most of us, I panicked a little bit. I knew my business has been solid. I'm like, oh
Mhm.
crap, how am I going to do this? I was I had like in some way, oh, this is going to change. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. And I realized shortly thereafter, after a few months into it, we're going to need to what I call pivot and propel. Not
Mhm.
just change the way you do things, then take action. We're not just
Yeah.
changing directions. You've got to propel yourself forward. So I started getting into books, getting that mini MBA in the virtual technology speaking world. I befriended folks who were experts in the field by sharing my content and value. We always have something to give. I don't care if you're brand new to the speaking business or have been doing it for 30 years, there's always something great that you can give with your experience, and you could do a quid pro quo.
Mhm.
So I contacted my buddies, got on different podcasts, got on different mastermind groups, and took my mask off and humbly asked for help. And this camera that I'm using, I've got something here also called Stream Deck. I'm going to show a picture here, a video popping in, photos. You know, this
Got
is
a
a Stream Deck.
picture.
It's a great little thing. Some of us have heard of it. I didn't know what the heck that was
Mhm.
until my buddy Ken Sky told me about it. I've got this $600 Sennheiser MK600 microphone. I've got these amazing lights here in my room, right? I got all this crazy stuff. Hey,
Love it.
sorry if I made you dizzy.
No, that's okay.
I cashed in on some of those relationships. They gave me amazing time. I put in the sweat equity, and then I just helped a bunch of other people out. Terry Shodine's a good friend of mine. She's awesome. She's also a Hall of Fame speaker. I remember talking to her this past summer, showing her all my items, and this is what you need to do. Here's what you need to get. Another Congresswoman friend of mine who just got out of Congress is now speaking. I had a conference call with her on Friday and said, here are the things that you need to do. Here's the deal, folks. And this aligns with my brand called Wingman, Trusted Partner. I think as subjectively objective as I could say it is I emulate the characteristics of trust and compassion and empathy and giving that I talk about in my programs. You don't know, Jane. Most people don't know all the things that I do behind the scenes. I guarantee knowing that your character, you don't always get a check written for all the giving and compassion and care that you do both in the business world and out, just because you're a good human being. Um, Humanity revealed itself very quickly in the last year. And I asked with honor, I took with honor, take. And I did it with honor because I knew I was giving with honor and sharing the blessings and skills and technologies and tools that you saw on that jet to other people. So I asked for help. I studied. I got in the books. I went to so many different YouTube videos. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to this podcast. You have got to work and get uncomfortable in this crazy virtual world that we're in. This is what leaders do. It's what the best speakers do and the best business people do. And so, not saying that I'm not still learning, but I busted my tail and shared those lessons with a lot of other people and hopefully dug them out of the dungeon of despair where many of us were a few months ago.
Nice. And when people, if you'd like to see the video of this, we're going to make the video available. If you go over to speakerlauncher.com and click on the podcast, you'll be able to see this entire interview. And moving forward, we're going to continue to videotape them. So you can kind of see what some of the bells and whistles that you have over there are. When it comes to, so clearly you invested during COVID, but let's just think big picture about your business. Um, I have watched you for the past 2 decades investing in your business. I've watched your video or your websites get better and better and better and better, and that isn't just spending $10,000 in 1 year and then leaving it for three. That doesn't happen
Right,
for
right.
you. Talk about how you've invested in your business over the past, say, 3 years, and what has paid off for you, you think, the most. And by the way, we'll put a link to your virtual demo on the show notes page as well, because I want people to be able to see that, because
Great.
that was clearly an investment.
Yes, ma'am. Video is so key. No matter what, your video has got to be the primary vehicle, the conduit of connection and brand and value that you should invest in. Um, if you only had one thing on your website, you know, challenge is the video, right? What's the challenge and the problem that you're solving? Share the video that gives some solutions, and then a little bit about you. Most people talk about me, what I deliver, and the problem I solve. It's got to be problem you solve, how you solve it, and then you. And you could kind of blend a little bit of you in between there. So problem, solution, you, not you, solution, problem. Key. And this is an important part of anything, particularly social media as well as your website and video. So video is important, and having the right wingman or wingmam who can edit and put these videos together, and a great team of people who aren't just going to say, oh, great job, Jane, looks good. People who are going to be nitpicky and break apart that video and give you great feedback and ideas. I'm part of a mastermind group. I love these guys and gals. Sometimes we just are not willing to tick each other off with honest feedback. When you listen to the pros and you get ideas, it doesn't mean you have to change, because not every coach is correct. You've got to filter it through your paradigm of life and success and what your values are. But part of it is watching what other people do, investing, like you said, keyword that you just said, Jane, investing. Don't look at it as a cost. A good investment will reap a return. So you've got to be able to write some checks. And I always say, be willing to write a check equal to or greater than the check that you want to be written to you. And then you've really earned your wings as a business person.
Yeah, I love
So
that.
research, find out what works, find out, befriend the person. If you see my stuff and want, I've recommended my videographer and my web designer and some other folks to a lot of people. Dan Thurman's used my web designer. A lot of folks behind the scenes do it.
Is it Chris West? Who's your
Chris West, well, he was my video guy on one of them, not
Mhm.
on my virtual demo, but an older one he's done. And Chris West is fantastic.
Yeah.
7, 8 years ago, I hired him, and I recommended him. When I was doing the video lab, I brought him in. Great guy, great human being, by the way. Always look at someone's values and personality and humanity before you hire them.
We've recommended
Uh,
him on this show a lot of many times.
oh
He's a
yeah,
terrific person.
fantastic. And he's done. We've got a great relationship. But I also use different folks too, because I want different texture. I want a different shorter video with somebody else who shares something different. By the way, I'll hire multiple speaker coaches in the world. I invest in them. I just hired Patricia Fripp, who's fantastic, very different than how I would normally speak. And I want someone different than me.
Yeah, that's
I don't
great.
want somebody that's going to reinforce what I'm currently doing, to say, no, Waldo, be more disciplined with your language. Stop moving enough, as much as you do. So, it's like getting shot with, BB guns with Patricia. Great for a lot of people, maybe not so good with others. So you see all these variables, these investments, and I like doing it when I'm doing well, because complacency in this business and in any business, be it in your health and fitness, and your ability to adapt in the technical world and do your videos, et cetera, is critical. So video, extremely important. Updating the value proposition, multiple pages on your site. And then I've been really doubling down on my social media. If you go to my LinkedIn profile, Waldo Waldman, you'll see a lot of content that I have. I post 2 or 3 times a week. Some of them have video and some graphics. Sometimes they don't. I have a company that posts a couple of times. I actually need to fire them because they're just not doing as well as I want. They're just not creating the sticky content that I like. And that's partially my fault. I'm not giving them enough. That's a whole nother story. You've got to be willing to change your vendors sometimes. So those are a couple of really important ways. And I'm always doubling down on my relationships with my biggest clients, my most loyal fans, who refer me, who love me, who I pick up the phone, I connect with. I refer as well. I refer other speakers to them. Some of them, one of a GE company division, I won't say specifically, one of the executives who's worked with me over the years, she's changing jobs, they're doing a little change out. I'm helping her out with her job and using my connections with amazing men and women who I work with to be a resource to her, to be a wingman. And so
So,
that's how gigs sometimes pop up here and there, uh,
so
beyond
invest
just the
in
speech.
relationships as well. So you're investing in the tools, but you're also investing in your relationships as well. Okay. Well, if people would like to know more about what you do, you have what is it? An audio that you wanted to offer?
Yeah. First thing, Google Waldo Waldman. Put some quotes around Waldo Waldman. Google me, a Waldo Waldman speaker, Waldo Waldman keynote speaker, whatever. And because this is what my clients will probably do and your clients will do. Find out where I'm at. They're on some bureau sites. I do 25, 35% of speaker business through bureaus. I don't do as much with them now because some of them are struggling, some are still doing well.
Mhm.
But Google, find out where my links are, find out where I could be found and see how you can learn from them. I'm also at Waldo Waldman on LinkedIn and Twitter, etc. Don't just connect with me to be friends with me. I love to be friends with you, but watch what I'm doing. I connect with a lot of other peers and speakers just to see what they're doing differently. I honor my competitors. I honor them. I respect them. Some of my biggest competitors are the amazing best men and women speakers out there. I love what they do. I can't stand that they beat me, but makes me want to get better. Welcome to the world, right? So I'm going to share with you. I've got a video series called the ACE Academy. I'm pressing this button. I got a video. If you're just listening audio, it's got a nice branded graphic through my graphics wingman. ACE Academy, and ACE stands for accountability, commitment, and execution. Okay. And what I would like to do is offer you 5 free videos of that campaign. If you go to yourwingman.com/MR, like mission ready, lowercase, please. Yourwingman.com/MR, put your name and email address in. You will get a 5 video series. And I share these snackable content. My buddy Chip Eichelberger, I think he created that term, but it's snackable content, 3 minutes of goodies, not going to fill you up. People are busy. Boom, you get the snackable content, and it'll give you a wingtip, a value proposition, a vector for your day. And watch how I do it, and watch how it's delivered. Not perfect, because I bet some of you listening to this could probably school me on how it could be better. But learn from those videos. Maybe you could do something similar, and then you'll get into my newsletter, which I send out every month or so. So that's a little wingtip as well. And then finally, I'm going to offer my audiobook, Never Fly Solo, yourwingman.com/NFS. There on the screen, if you're watching this, there is a QR code to connect with me on LinkedIn. QR code, I didn't know what the heck one was up until a couple of years ago. You open up your camera, click on the thing, and bing, you'll connect with me on LinkedIn. Once again, watch what I'm doing here. I show this on my keynotes. I just did 70 executives with Lockheed Martin and American Family Insurance and Comcast Business a few days ago. I pop this bad boy on, tell them to connect. Now they're connecting with me on LinkedIn. They're sharing feedback. Sometimes they're sharing my content. Take action on some of these ideas on what I'm doing. Watch what I'm doing, perhaps implement them. And maybe you, my friends, could give me a wingtip or so on how I could better some of my marketing, because I'm always open to learning from my peers. It's an important part of my wingman philosophy, because somebody can shoot me down any day, and I want to be friends with them, because you're the ones that can teach me how to keep pushing up the throttle.
All right. Well, thank you, Rob Waldo Waldman, for being on the show today. For those of you who have listened in and gotten some great tips, I know you're going to appreciate it and reach out to Waldo in whatever format that you would like. And for those of you listening, we will say thank you for being here, and we'll see you soon, Wealthy Speakers. Bye for now.
Take care.